p.m. And you heard Director Benarott explain that we are continuing to do these meetings on a hybrid sort of basis. We have folks tuning in online, watching in a variety of different ways. We also have folks here in the audience that are appearing live. And so we're going to continue this method into the indefinite future. If you're online and or if you're here, we've got a couple different opportunities for comment. One's community comment, and this is your access code information to call in. You can call in during community comment. And remember that if it's on the agenda this evening or scheduled for a future public hearing, those are two categories in which you cannot comment. Otherwise, we're eager to hear what your concerns or comments are. And then we've got two public hearing matters this evening as well that we'll take public testimony on. So having provided that information, I'm going to ask our clerk, Sharon Ellison, to call the roll.
Councilmember Agnew.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Risser. Here. Mayor Hovland.
Here. And now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. And we've got a form of meeting agenda in front of us this evening. Anyone on the council wish to modify the meeting agenda or from a staff standpoint? All right. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda as published?
So moved. My second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the meeting agenda as published. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the meeting agenda as published, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The meeting agenda is adopted. And now we are at community comment. And for folks in the audience, again, a reminder, we welcome your participation in the council meeting this evening on anything that's not scheduled for a future public hearing or on the agenda this evening. We don't want to be creating a de facto sort of public hearing where some people have advantage over others. So we welcome people in the audience first, and then we'll turn to the virtual world and see if we have anybody else that wants to participate with us on an online basis.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Ralph Sickert. I live at 4311 Cornelia Circle. I applaud the council for taking the initiative to start the 2026 budget discussions earlier than ever before. The looming 17% increase in property tax levy warrants a different approach. Unfortunately, after 3 months, Manager Neal deserves a failing grade for his efforts. Not a C, not a D, but an F. Mr. Neal deserves a failing grade because he missed the first step in solving a problem. That first step being clearly define the problem you're trying to solve. In multiple meetings and presentations, Mr. Neal has made it clear he does not believe the tax burden on residents is too high. Instead, Mr. Neal sees the problem as one of being optics, the optics of a 17% increase in property tax levy. No wonder then that Mr. Neal's largest so-called reductions in next year's tax levy are to be achieved by increasing your utility bills, increasing your Hennepin County property taxes, and increasing your sales tax at the checkout counter. Look no further than the numbers shared with the council March 15th. $2.6 million, almost half of the so-called levy reduction initiatives, merely shift the collection of those revenues from what is currently Edina property taxes to a different taxing authority, a change that would further obscure the real cost of running the city. Only in an insulated, bureaucratic environment would this be perceived as a reduction in Edina's tax burden. So yes, Mr. Neal's efforts deserve a failing mark. After 3 months, only $500,000 of true taxpayer savings has been identified, and $300,000 of that came from a resident's suggestion, not staff. Yet to be fair, we still are 9 months away from having to hold our noses, as we have the last 2 years, before the final budget vote in December. So my question tonight is this. In these intervening 9 months, who will be the last council member to demonstrate that the problem facing Edina is not one of optics? The problem is a ballooning tax burden in need of long-term spending reductions, which do not kick the can down the road, real process improvements, which result in lower spending, and ongoing revenue streams that don't just change the name of the tax collector. And after tonight's work session, let's not forget service levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zickert. Anyone else? Yes, please come forward. Saw a hand come up in the back there. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Jarmel Perry, and I am a part of the Coalition to End Slavery in our prison systems, in our Minnesota prison systems. Thank you for having me, City Council, as well as Mayor. Slavery is legal and must be ended by legislation. Slavery is legal under the Article 1, Section 2 of the Minnesota Constitution, which allows slavery as punishment for a crime. Yes, in Minnesota, in 2025, slavery is still legal. 8 states have ended slavery in the Constitution, including Alabama, Nebraska, Tennessee, and Utah are 4 of them. But no one in or impacted by the prison system has yet felt the benefits from these changes, which is why we have organized for Minnesota to be the first state to reclassify prisoners as workers through legislative means.
All right.
Hi, my name is Cecily McMillan. As an inmate on Rikers Island, I was forced to work up to 16 hours a day at a rate of 17 cents an hour, the highest paying job in that institution as a suicide prevention aide to adolescent girls imprisoned there, making sure that none of them, quote, hung up or cut up. Here in Minnesota, people in prison are forced to work starting at 25 cents an hour at a punishment of in-cell or actual solitary confinement for failing to do so, while at the same time, the cost of purchasing hygiene, email, and other things that you need to survive in prison costs more than the money that you can make. This enforced poverty drains families, prevents victims from receiving restitution, and sets up more than 25% of people to leave prison in a state of homelessness, in poverty, without any ability to avoid reconviction rates, with rearrest rates that go up by 6 and 12 times respectively. The difference between real wages and slave wages is stealing $100 million a year from the poorest Minnesotans, their children, their families, and the victims. For all of our sakes, we must do better.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan.
Thank you. My name is Raj, and Edina is connected to prison slavery and can be part of the solution, right? And legal slavery, right? And legal slavery is even connected to the beautiful city of Edina. According to the Minnesota Department of Corrections, the following entities that have had work crew contracted since 2019, right? Cities like Shoreview, Blaine, Coon Rapids, Minnetonka, Woodbury, Plymouth, Savage, Eden Prairie, Goodhue County, Dakota County Parks, Minnesota Department of Transportation, Habitat for Humanity, and Edina. 2 contracts that we received that we were able to see that such cities are paying 10 incarcerated work crew members for 40 hours a week for $98,500 a year to the Minnesota Department of Corrections, or roughly $4.90 an hour with an overtime costing $85 an hour, or 8.5 or 50 cents, $8.50 per person. We know from these these jobs that they had roughly paid $1 an hour, right? We are glad that cities like Edina are hiring people in prison, but our state needs you to ensure that these human beings, right, are paid real, not slave wages. And those opportunities become successful pipelines right out and into the community.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Reclassifying prisoners as state workers could be a potential to lift up the prisoners, as well as make them leaders in the community. It also can help them with the families, the prisoners, and the safety of the victims and economic. Me, myself, worked on the crew inside the prison. I've worked on these very grounds here, putting out mulch and things around here. So with that being said, that with 25 cents an hour compared to a regular worker, it could help them with job ethics, as well as helping the victims and the community with the leadership and stuff. So I want to thank y'all. That would be a solution to put them as regular workers and study slave wages, which is 25 cents compared to what regular workers would get, and that will help them. And I want to thank y'all.
Yeah, sure. And would you give us your name for the record too, please?
Oh, I'm sorry for that. My name is David Islam.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dave. All right. Could anybody tell us what kind of success you've had with this? Maybe you weren't done with your remarks yet. We can ask.
Thank you. In the bill that we are trying to push forward, it shows that we want to be able to have everybody moved up to $15 an hour, and that's minimum wage. Be able to, by reclassifying them as working class, they'll get better working conditions, and the option not to work if they don't want to without punishment, which is very key. We have started this initiative and tried to campaign out this process by the 5,000 Jobs Initiative, by trying to partner with a lot of companies and organizations to be able to give people opportunities to be able to work inside and actually can be transferred to outside work as well. Because a lot of the people that are working on the inside of the prison system, once they exit the prison system, the same job that they were doing for 10 years on the inside, now they are unqualified to do on the outside, and that just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. By being able to establish the $15 an hour, 50% or less will be earmarked to take care of restitution, as well as taking care of any type of child support, or to be able to support your family on the outside. You would get a small increase on the inside, but the biggest thing is you would have a high yield savings account on the outside. What that would do, you would be able to save up enough money so when you do exit, you have a nest egg to be able to start your life over and actual feet to be able to stand on. I know a lot of the times it's fight or flight when a lot of these people get out of the prison system, and being able to be effective inside to outside and being able to give them a chance to be able to stand on their own and take care of that restitution and all those things that usually put people back into the prison system with that recidivism. If we change this by 1%, if we change the recidivism by 1%, that will be $1 million that doesn't go to our prison systems and $10 million that our taxpayers are not paying.
58 million.
58 million. Okay. All right.
For 1% reduction.
So 58 million for 1% reduction, not production. So it's very key that we get the support of the city council, and we would love for you guys to be able to sign on and support as any way possible. And I would let CC follow up.
All right. Yeah, thanks for that.
And
Ms.
we've
McMillan,
had
go ahead.
success in so much as we've had A.G. Ellison sign on. We have the bill sponsors right now working with the language, Claire Umu Verbatim in the Senate, and Cedric Frazier in the House. Jacob Fry, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
He's really lovely. I moved here 3 years ago, actually, because there's so few places that you can actually live, even put your name on a lease. I was living for 8 years in my hometown of Atlanta without ever being able to be on that lease, which is to say Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, I literally had to be able to stay with whomever had enough privilege to let me be there. And when I arrived here, I had 3 job offers, and they're supposed to be ban the box. They were all rescinded because I'm a legal liability. So when job discrimination is real, when housing discrimination is real, when that's a requirement of your probation upon leaving and you leave with no money or no support, no transferability of skills, that's a problem. And so on our end, what we're doing between now and the upcoming next session is we're actually raising the 3,000 jobs that we would need to from Fortune 500 companies, from nonprofits and small businesses, organizations here in this state, which is the first state to send troops to back the Civil War to end slavery. And we're hoping that we can walk this in January 2026 without a financial attachment necessary. The $100 million that exist could just go to jobs at minimum wage to continue to fund the operations of the prison. And now we can set up jobs that can transfer from within to without.
Okay, so Cedric Frazier's got your bill in the House, and who did you say had it in the Senate?
Claire Umuver-Baton, and they're the bill sponsors currently working on that bill language to walk it in 2026 with the idea that we will have twice the jobs, 6,000 jobs pledge is what I'm aiming for.
Okay, all right, yeah, I was thinking if you were working on language now, it's just from doing things over there, it's probably a little bit late for this year, but you're talking about 2026.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, other council members have any questions? Or we thank you for taking the time to come over here tonight and enlightening all of us on this challenge.
I know it'd be the second city council to endorse this, along with Minneapolis City Council, and I think that would be really awesome. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ms. McMillan.
Yeah, we got them.
Yeah, we got the handout too, so we've got everything.
Yep, and
All
my
right.
email's on there if you have any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay. No one online. Disappointing. I know for you.
We can talk some more.
We will. Thank you. All right. City manager responses to community comment from the prior meeting. Anything to respond to? I don't think there were no. I don't remember any questions. Just
we had
comments.
2 speakers, but we had no questions for staff to answer.
Okay. We've got a consent agenda in front of us. I know Member Risser would like to remove the minute 6.1. Does any other council member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda or a staff person? All right. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda with the exception of item 6.1?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the items on the consent agenda with the exception of 6.1. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the items on the consent agenda except 6.1 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. All those items are adopted with the exception of 6.1, and now we'll go to Member Risser and item 6.1 to find out what her concern is there. Member Risser.
Thank you, and I would like to thank Clerk Allison for working with me on this. Resident Nora Davis did come to community comment at our last meeting, and the way her comments were originally presented in the minutes were very inaccurate. She was credited with saying that the neighbors were never notified that a 4th floor was being constructed at the 4040 building, and that was not what she said. And I'm very happy with the change. Nora Davis addressed a previous community comment about the 4th floor of the 4040 building, where a resident claimed neighbors were not notified. Though staff refuted this, Ms. Davis recalled the project was initially approved for 3 stories with a setback 4th floor, but staff and the developer altered the plans in 2021. And so that was what I was concerned about. And I think we have 2 images that I submitted, and Nora Davis was responding to a resident at an earlier meeting, and this is our statute about plan modifications. A development can be changed one time if the planning department deems those changes as minor. And if we could go to the other image, and here is at the top what 4040 is looks like, or what it was supposed to look like. And this is the image that you'll still see if you go to Better Together. That is how it was shown. And you'll note in the other image, that is how it was built. And what Resident Davis was concerned about was that upper fourth floor on the north end of the building was pulled out, and so it wasn't pushed back as far as it was originally supposed to be. Also, she didn't mention this, but there was a railing that was added so that we have a porch coming out on the top deck, and that was not anticipated. The other thing is that the building was lifted up off the ground so it doesn't sit directly on the ground. And I think, that all three of those changes together, it's a matter of opinion, I think, and one individual's set of minor changes is going to be viewed as very different by another person, and I can really understand how the residents feel this was not a minor change, that it was a significant shift. And I wanted to show these images and bring up our statute because I think it's important to understand this is considered minor change. And we go through a lot of process, reviewing plans, we have public hearings and all of that, and I just think we need to be mindful of that. But I want to also apologize to Nora Davis because I did remember those changes, but I didn't have, at the time when she brought her concerns forward, I just sat and listened and I didn't say anything, and I feel really badly that I didn't say anything. So I wanted to correct that tonight. And with that, I am fine. The minutes have been amended, and I appreciate the time to explain my concern. So I would be happy to go ahead and move those.
All right, yeah, so you want to move the amended minutes?
I do.
Okay. Member Risser moves the adoption of the amended minutes of the regular meeting of the Edina City Council for March 18, 2025. Second. Is there a second? Member Pierce seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the amended minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held March 18, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The amended minutes for March 18, 2025 City Council meeting are adopted. And as you were going through that, those visuals, it reminded me that when they were in the final stages of construction, I think Director Teague is not here tonight. We had somebody, because I think there were several of us that were concerned about, is this getting built the way it was approved? We had somebody independent from the team here in-house take a look at it to see if it was being built according to the plans and specs. And I thought that, do you remember that, Ms. Dalrymple, as to who that was? And remember, Manager Neal, do you remember that? Remember that we had somebody come and look at it carefully and analyze it, kind of scrutinize everything and opine that it was in compliance. So
I don't, but I know that Director Teague will be here at the next meeting, and he can speak to that.
Maybe why don't you make a note to talk to him about that in the gap period here between this meeting and the meeting on the 16th of April.
I can do that.
And I just can't remember who that was that we hired to take a look at the issue. Okay, thank you. All right, that takes care of the consent agenda, and we're going to move on to the special recognitions and presentations for the portion of the agenda. We've got several proclamations here this evening to go through, and we've got Janelle Harris, our dispatch supervisor. There she is in the front row with us this evening for the very first one, which is something that I think all of us take a great deal of pride and comfort in, knowing you're upstairs working with your team for us and our residents as dispatchers. And the proclamation, which discusses the establishment of National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week, Sunday, April 13, 2025 through Saturday, April 19, 2025. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone or text the Data Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them with information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Data Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each public safety telecommunicator has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina hereby proclaims the week of April 13th through April 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week in the City of Edina in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and our citizens safe. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week proclamation. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation as read, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The proclamation is adopted. I'm going to walk down and hand it to you, and I know you've got a few remarks for us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And this is always great information that you share with us and the public.
Hey, so I do appreciate that, and thank you for the time you're allowing me to speak. So thank you to Mayor Evelyn, to our council members, to City Manager Neal, and all on the dais here. As supervisor of the 911 Dispatch Center, I do want to thank you for recognizing the work of our 911 dispatchers, who will very soon, in a couple weeks, be celebrating National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, kind of a mouthful. Edina's public safety telecommunicators, also known as 911 dispatchers, are talented professionals with a desire to serve this community. They are an integral piece of the overall public safety response, and while they may not wear a badge or ride in a squad car, they are every bit the lifeline that emergency response relies on, and so much is expected of them as well. So the public relies on them to answer calls quickly, providing life-saving instruction while sending people to help. Police, fire, and medical responders rely on them to provide accurate and timely information by radio to prepare them for the often unknown situations they are approaching, while always still knowing their location and status to keep them safe. New hires rely on them to train and mentor them into the profession throughout the time it takes to become a confident and competent dispatcher. Our exceptional staff respect and fulfill these responsibilities hour after hour and shift after shift. To paint a picture of a typical shift, our 911 center will staff 2 to 3 dispatchers at a time who work at consoles composed of 5 large monitors, fed from 4 computers and running more than 10 software systems at any time. The person sitting at the controls must know how to operate all the numerous technology networks, an elaborate multi-line telephone system, a statewide shared radio system, a local computer-aided dispatch system, and multiple record management systems, along with dozens of auxiliary components. In our highly technical environment, not one of these systems stays the same for long, making our dispatchers multitasking pros and skilled change agents, typing faster than courtroom stenographers and flipping between radio channels like an air traffic controller. This past year, our 911 dispatchers, who are often recognized as the first responders, received over 105,000 emergent and non-emergent calls for service. So that's over 280 calls that we field per day. These calls range from accidental misdials all the way to the most serious emergencies. So at any one time, you could walk in and our dispatchers could be providing CPR instructions, advising how to escape a structure that is on fire, or helping someone hide from an assailant without a single beat of hesitation. always keeping their voices steady, no matter how horrifying the call is on the other side. The City of Edina employs some of the most dedicated and professional public safety telecommunicators in the state of Minnesota. When you have an opportunity to observe them, or even as you live and work in this community, it is easy to take for granted the quality, speed, decision-making, and collaboration used to reach extraordinary accomplishments in their daily work. When they seem like just a voice on the other line of the phone, it's easy to forget the challenges of physical and emotional stressors they encounter in the heroic work that they perform as they protect community members' safety and property. They complete their work with no thoughts of glory or praise other than the knowledge that they have helped someone in their hour of need. So when considering them, please remember that before the sirens wail, before help arrives, before lives are saved, they are giving everything they have to make sure responders get where they need to be with the information necessary to provide crucial, timely assistance to those in desperate need of it. So that is why it is so important that we take the time and honor them during National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. I am so proud of their dedication, compassion, and service. I'm so grateful for this leadership's recognition of these same qualities. There are easier jobs, for sure, but to our 911 dispatchers, it isn't just a job. It is truly a calling in their lives. So on behalf of all the dispatchers who are currently working right now, thank you again for the meaningful.
All right, yeah, thanks. We're going to give you a round of applause.
Any questions?
Those of us that have walked up there with on our own or with groups and seen you at work in that calm environment, handling over 100,000 calls a year, it's remarkable, and we're really so appreciative of the work that you all do and the team that you lead. So thanks for all that, and thanks for providing the information we needed to do the appropriate sort of proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harris. Another thing that occurs in April is Earth Day, and I know that some of our folks, I think Project Earth folks, have something planned down at Weber Park over on Earth Day or near Earth Day. And the proclamation for Earth Day in Edina is April 22nd, 2025, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Earth Day is commemorated annually on April 22nd to demonstrate support for environmental protection, advance sustainability initiatives, and raise awareness about climate change. And whereas the City of Edina is committed to addressing climate change and has taken steps to reduce its carbon footprint, conserve natural resources, and foster a culture of environmental stewardship. And whereas in 2021, the City of Edina adopted a climate action plan outlining our community's commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by 2050. And whereas Edina residents and businesses are actively supporting climate action by participating in the Community Climate Action Fund, diverting waste from landfills by participating in organics recycling, and choosing to walk, bike, and bus as alternative ways to move through our community. And whereas Earth Day serves as a reminder of our responsibility to climate action, stewardship of our resources, and future generations to live in a livable world, Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina, Minnesota, does hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2025 as Earth Day in Edina and encourages all residents and businesses to acknowledge their role in protecting our environment and combating climate change, fostering a culture of environmental stewardship within their network, attending local Earth Day events such as the annual clothing swap and tree planting, and participate in Edina programs that help reduce your carbon footprint. Is there a motion to adopt the Earth Day proclamation?
So moved. Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the Earth Day proclamation designating April 22nd, 2025 as Earth Day in Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation as read, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The proclamation is adopted. I was going to have you come up, Luther, and accept it. We don't have anybody from staff to accept it, but you can hold on if you want, because we're going to go to Arbor Day next, and then you'll be coming up anyway. So I could give them both to you. So let's move on then to Arbor Day, April 25, 2025, and Luther Overholt, our forester, is here with us this evening. And that proclamation for April 25, 2025, designation of that date as Arbor Day reads as follows. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. It must not have resonated really well down in Nebraska. It doesn't seem like they did a really good job of planting trees down there to me, maybe in the northeast corner. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas forest soils prevent flooding and reduce stormwater by capturing and storing rainwater and snowmelt, which is then slowly released to our lakes, streams, and groundwater. And whereas trees and forests improve our physical health by cleaning the air, reducing exposure to the sun's UV rays, and decreasing temperatures during the summertime. And whereas one tree provides $62,000 worth of pollution control over a period of 50 years. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas forests create high-quality drinking water by acting as a natural filter. And whereas Edina is proud of the beautiful shade trees which grace our homes and public places. And so therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina does hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Edina, and calls upon the spirited and foresighted citizens of Edina to continue to plant trees now for our pleasure and that of future generations. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of Arbor Day as in the designation of April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Edina. All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation as read, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Luther, come on up. I bet you've got some information you want to share with us. And for some of those in the audience and listening in at home, they may not know that you planted 1,000 trees within the last couple of years, I think. So,
yeah,
I'd like to talk about that a little bit too.
Over 1,000, and that was with some of the COVID relief funds. We planted over 1,000 new trees here throughout the city, focusing in the southeast quadrant. That's where our lowest tree canopy is, and so got an interactive map on the city website you can peek at, and it's got shows the location of all those trees that were planted and the species as well. So that's pretty fun. But Mayor and Council, thank you for observing Arbor Day. This year, our Arbor Day celebration is Friday, April 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Braemar Golf Course. We're going to be planting right around 300 new trees at the golf course. A lot of it will be kind of adjacent, to the course throughout kind of the area where we have the new mountain bike trails where we removed a lot of buckthorn, and so we'll be kind of, adding more oaks, a lot of oaks back in there, as well as some other nut trees and shrubs. And so we can show up. We'll have shovels and all the holes kind of pre-dug with an auger, so we'll do all that work ahead of time, so it makes planting go a lot easier. And we'll kind of be back out there starting on the back lawn area, and then kind of going out in intervals throughout the day, planting in groups. So always look forward to that. It's kind of like Christmas for me, so I'm really excited about Arbor Day. And then too with Earth Day, April 24th, so the day before, is the clothing swap at Braemar Arena, and so that's another fun event that we put on, and that's that afternoon. I think it starts around like 3 or 4 at Braemar Arena in the backyard rink, where anyone can go and pick out clothing that others have dropped off there, and I think most of the time a lot of it gets taken or used by people that are there at the event, and then everything else we donate after. And so just another great way to kind of try and reduce our carbon footprint, and just kind of fun that the city puts that on as well.
All right. Thanks for that information. Member Jackson has a question for you.
Yes. So could you please repeat the hours of the Arbor Day celebration, and where do you want people to gather? So when the public comes, where do they go?
Right behind the clubhouse, and we have that kind of the lawn area behind the clubhouse, and so we'll be out there with. I'll have some other vendors that are there. They'll have free tree seedlings available, and then food and beverage at Red River Kitchen, and so we'll be kind of just right out back behind the clubhouse, and then starting there, and then like I said, we'll be kind of going out in multiple groups, probably every 45 minutes, half hour, to go plant more trees.
And the hour again, please.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then you've had a tree sale too. You have been doing that twice a year, and
Yep. And so this year's was very popular. We had about 20 different species, and I think after the first day we only had 4 left, and so sold out quickly. I don't think there's any trees left now. We will have another round of trees though for this fall, and so. Look for more information for that as we get closer to the fall, but it'll probably be, posted around August and then pick up in late September or something like that for the fall sale. And there'll be 250 trees available for that as well.
And that was what you had this time, was 250?
Yep.
Yeah, I know I emailed you a couple days ago and it
Yeah.
said I'd like to buy a couple. You said they were all gone.
Yep. So yeah, it went fast this year, but we had a lot of great varieties to select from. And so I think, residents love it, and it's great way to get new trees for your house.
Good. Any other questions, comments about Arbor Day or the events that are coming up? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. One more proclamation in this portion of the agenda before we move on to the public hearings, and this involves Building Safety Month. Nate Borridge is with us from our chief building official, and the proclamation for Building Safety Month designating May 2025 as Building Safety Month reads as follows. Whereas our city of Edina is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure, and the role they play both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, such as building safety and fire prevention officials and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our communities largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Game On is the theme for Building Safety Month 2025 and encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improving building safety and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal building and safety prevention and fire departments in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Edina is hereby proclaimed the month of May 2025 as Building Safety Month in the City of Edina, and accordingly, we encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participation in Building Safety Month. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation as read?
So moved.
I second.
Member Jackson moves. We're on the roll here. Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the Building Safety Month proclamation designating May 2025 as Building Safety Month. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the proclamation as read, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The proclamation is adopted. Nate, welcome. Thank you. We look forward to your update.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and City Council members. But I am Nate Borridge, the Chief Building Official for the City of Edina. Our building department consists of 15 employees, and we provide services to the community that safeguard life, health, property, and public welfare by regulating and controlling the design, alteration, construction, materials, use, and occupancy of buildings and homes in Edina. In 2024, the City of Edina issued nearly 6,000 permits and conducted just under 19,500 inspections. Our department is a proud member of the International Code Council, and we will work to promote public awareness of the role building, safety, and fire prevention officials play to protect lives and structures. I'd like to thank you for supporting the Building Inspections Department and Building Safety Month. I'd also like to thank our Inspections Department staff and the work they do to keep the public safe. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Borridge. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, sir. All the good work you do. We know that you are so busy all the time with the things that are going on in our community. We're so grateful that you do the professional job that you do. Come on down.
Good job, Nate.
As I mentioned earlier, we've got a couple of public hearing matters. I think the first one will go fairly fast. This involves the potential issuance of a new on-sale intoxicating and Sunday sale liquor license for D'Amico and Sons. And our clerk, Sharon Allison, has this matter. Clerk Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, member of the council. This is just a public hearing to approve the on-sale intoxicating liquor for D'Amico. Currently, D'Amico has a beer and wine license, and they're switching to full intox, and per our ordinance, it requires a public hearing.
Good. And all the background checks went just fine, it looks like? Absolutely. Yep, okay. Any questions for Clerk Allison from council members? All right, let me open this up for public testimony. This is a public hearing matter. Is anyone in the audience that wishes to testify regarding the potential issuance of a new on-sale intoxicating and Sunday sale liquor license to D'Amico and Sons? Seeing no one coming forward, hearing nothing, I'll turn to Director Benarott. Anybody online wishes to comment?
No, we don't have anyone online yet, but because the public hearing just started, I would recommend we wait a minute or so since there is a slight delay in the broadcast. My clock shows it at 7:50, so I'll come back to you at 7:51 or when I have a caller, whichever's first.
All right, thank you.
One of the longest minutes of your day has now ended, and I still don't have anyone, so I think it's safe to move forward with the agenda.
All right, very good. Council members, is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce seconds the closure of the public hearing matter involving the potential issuance of a new on-sale intoxicating and Sunday sale liquor license to D'Amico and Sons. All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The public hearing is closed. Staff would like a motion to approve the new on-sale intoxicating and Sunday liquor sale licenses for D'Amico and Sons LLC, DBA D'Amico and Sons. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we're mixing it up. Member Pierce moves, Member Jackson seconds. The adoption of the motion is stated. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Motion's approved, and there will be a new on-sale intoxicating and Sunday sale liquor licenses for D'Amico and Son LLC, DBA D'Amico and Sons, issued by our clerk. Thank you for that. And now we're going to move on to the Second public hearing matter we have this evening, and I think all of us have been eager to continue this conversation. And we've got folks with us from the design team, and for those that have attended some of the other sessions that the county has held at the old library. It was one of the last things at the old library, I think, before they started the demolition. It was an excellent presentation, and we're going to have that again this evening, I think, and some updates. We've got some things to consider, which is one thing would be the potential issuance of a conditional use permit and a building height variance for the new library. So we're going to start the conversation with our Assistant City Planner, Emily Dalrymple, and she's going to tee it up here, and then we're going to have some other presentations by the county. And Manager Neal may have a comment or two, too. I'm not quite sure yet. But Ms. Dalrymple, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, the request is for an updated conditional use permit, a site plan, and a building height variance for a county library and art center at 7001 York Avenue. The subject site is a 7.75 acre site that's located at the southeast corner of York and 70th Street West. The site is guided as Community Activity Center in the city's comprehensive plan and is zoned as R1 Single Dwelling Unit District. Hennepin County is proposing to tear down the existing 76,000 square foot regional library and 38,000 square foot service center building to construct a new 43,000 square foot library and 16,000 square foot art center in the north half of the site. The Edina Art Center would be a tenant in the proposed building. The south half of the site would include green space with sidewalks and bike paths through the site that connect to a regional bike trail through Adams Hill Park to the south. The green space on the south half of the site would also include space for support activities for the art center and the library. The request tonight requires a conditional use permit, a site plan, and a building height variance. Publicly owned civic institutions such as libraries are conditionally permitted uses in the city's R1 zoning district, and per section 36.434 in the city's code, a conditional use permit should not be granted unless certain conditions are met. And staff believes that all the conditions to grant a conditional use permit are met in this instance. The project would not have an adverse impact on government facilities, utilities, or services, and the total square footage of the project is less than the service that exists today or that currently is on site. Roughly, there's 112,000 square feet of library space or service space, I should say, and there's 59,000 square feet proposed. The project would not generate any additional traffic on the street serving the property. A traffic study was completed for the project and found that the existing roadways would support the project. There is not an adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare. The use of the property remains the same. The proposed project would enhance the property and fits well on the site. The project conforms to the zoning code with the exception of the building height. And the use is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Public libraries are conditionally permitted use in the R1 zoning district, and land uses in the community activity center in the comprehensive plan include institutional and recreational uses. As stated, the proposed project also meets the city's requirements, or all the requirements of the city's zoning ordinance with the exception of the building height. The proposed building meets all setback requirements, and there is a decrease in both the building coverage and impervious surface coverage with the proposed project. The site has vehicle access from 70th Street, and existing access off of York Avenue would be closed. The building has pedestrian access from the north, south, and east sides of the building, and trails connect through the site to Adams Park to the south. I will note that there's also a sidewalk connection that's added or proposed along the south side of the property for connectivity. The code requires 160 parking stalls for the project, and the site plan shows a total of 184 parking spaces, including 109 surface parking stall lot along 70th Street and 75 spaces underground. A parking study was completed, and the existing library and art center were studied for peak parking demands. And based on those findings, the 184 proposed spots are expected to accommodate the forecasted peak parking for this building. The proposed landscaping on site is relatively extensive, but it does not meet the city's tree replacement ordinance of the city code. The tree replacement ordinance is located outside of the city's zoning ordinance, it's located in Chapter 10, and therefore there's not a path to request or receive a variance for the requirements. The city forester has received the proposed plans and believes there are some options that can be considered so that the tree ordinance is met. One option would be that they could preserve more trees on site or transplant trees on site so they don't have to be mitigated. They could also pay for the escrow or obtain a letter of credit for the valuation of the escrow to meet the city's requirements. The ordinance also allows the planting of trees off-site, but within the boundaries of Edina. So staff recommends that as a condition of approval for the project, that the applicant continue to work with the city forester so that the tree replacement ordinance is met prior to the issuance of a building permit. The proposed building materials are aluminum and metal panels with large windows. The site is unique in the fact that it's located within the Greater Southdale District, but it has an R1 single dwelling unit zoning designation. The R1 zoning district does not have any building material requirements, such as other zoning districts. Some other of the zoning districts in the Greater Southdale District do. The requested variance tonight is for building height of the proposed structure. The zoning district, the R1 district, would allow for a structure that is 3 stories or 40 feet in height. The proposed structure is 2 stories and 59 feet in height, and that 59 feet in height is measured from average existing grade. Staff believes that the proposed variance for building height is justified. The variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the code. The intent of the code is to not provide uniformity in building height. The site is not located within a traditional R1 area surrounded by single-family homes. All surrounding properties within Edina are commercial or office uses that would allow for taller buildings. The closest structure to the south is 52 feet in height, similar to the proposed height of the building, and nearby buildings include the Westin, which is roughly 230 feet, Yorktown Continental Apartments, which is 118, and the Bower, which is 200 feet. The proposed variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan doesn't regulate building height, but the site is located within the CAC Community Activity Center district, which are the areas in Edina that allow for the most height and density. There are practical difficulties in complying with the city's ordinance. The variance is reasonable given the location of the subject property, and there are other buildings in the area that are taller than the proposed library, and the height of the existing library is 60 feet. The circumstances of the subject property are unique and are not created by the landowner, and the proposed height variance would not alter the character of the neighborhood. There are existing buildings in the area that are taller than the proposed building, and like I said, the existing library is 60 feet. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on March 12th, and they unanimously recommended City Council approve the conditional use permit, site plan, and building height variance for 7001 York Avenue. The project meets the conditional use permit standards. The project meets the criteria to grant a variance. The height of the structure is consistent with other buildings in the area. The existing height of the library is 60 feet, and the proposed project would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, were their findings. Their recommendation also included the conditions that were outlined in the staff report, including the requirement to meet the city's tree ordinance prior to the issuance of a building permit. And with that, I can stand for any questions, and I know the county and MSR Design is here to give a presentation as well.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. If the compliance with the tree ordinance is planting on other sites, can we put a condition that it be within the Southdale area? Because I know that's part of the city that has the fewest trees, and I'd like to keep the trees in that neighborhood.
I believe it would have to be on county property, but Attorney Kendall, do you have any additional comments on requirements or where the city could require those tree plantings?
Well, the ordinance currently says it can be planted anywhere in Edina, but I think it's a very good idea to plant it as close as possible to the subject property. So maybe that could be negotiated with the developer that they would agree to that condition.
That's a condition I'd like to see, that the trees remain within the Southdale area, not anywhere in Edina. I don't think the ordinance doesn't require it to be on county property. It can be on any property. We're building a new park at Fred Richards, but if there's a place where it can be in that neighborhood that has so few trees, that'd be great.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can you go back? I think it's just one slide. Well, it's one more. That one. I'm just curious about the residential neighborhood to the, I guess, east. Mm-hmm. What's the distance from the new structure to the homes?
I think the applicant might have that in their presentation, so
Oh,
I'll let
okay.
them speak.
All right. Okay. All right. And then I think you answered my other question about the height. The current library is the same height as the proposed.
Is 60 feet.
Yeah.
And the proposed is 59.
Okay.
To do it, David Huff might want to provide a little introduction, and then we could go to the team, and we've got quite a few folks here, and it's going to be an excellent presentation. Look forward to it.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for this opportunity. We've been working on this for 13 years, and it's geared up over the last 7 years. We're very appreciative of all the collaboration partnership with Edina. We're excited for the Edina Arts Center. Taking almost 8 acres of asphalt and turning it into this beautiful new project, including several acres of green space where we'll be planting several hundred trees currently, which is, as I said, asphalt. I'm going to have our team, our project team that are committed and have spent so much time, energy, and effort on this, working with your team, try to figure out a path forward, present what we're attempting to do here. This has been in the county's capital improvement program for several years now, and this is, as you know, probably a 9-digit investment. $100 million is what we're anticipating to invest here in this regional library, which has been one of our highly used facilities and is a real showpiece in the 41 library system that have been operated. So with that, turn it over to the team, which has a presentation. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thanks, Mr. Huff.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members.
My name is Liz Federico. I am the project manager for this project for Hennepin County in the Design and Construction Division. I am joined by and presenting with.
Good evening, Matthew Kruntrad with MSR Design, Principal Architect.
And we are accompanied with various different project team members and some of our agency leaders as well. I'm going to start us off with Hennepin County Library's mission. The library's mission is to inspire, facilitate, and celebrate lifelong learning. One of the ways we achieve this mission is by creating inviting, inclusive, accessible, and safe public spaces. You'll see this woven in the presentation today. As noted, the facility was built and opened in 1971, so serving residents of Bloomington, Richfield, Minneapolis, and here in Edina for quite some time. Also noted as the 4th busiest library in our system. As David noted, it's been in the works for quite some time as well. Various different conversations, various different degrees. And what you can see here since 2023 is the path that we're currently on right now. I can promise throughout these years, we have been in continuous communication and connection with our community. Those various different means are surveys, outreaches, interactive websites, and then planned engagements, which I know the mayor had noted. Some of note was the last part of 2023, also the last part of 2024, which attendees at nearly 100 each. Also, key attendees that were there were young families and our senior citizen neighbors. I will get to some of the feedback shortly. Also, as part of this process, we hosted an open house just this past February, which some key attendees were the single residents just to our east. This brings us to today. As you can see, we've been in a long road of design and we are in the midst of refinement. You also may know that the library and full facility is actually closed. As we note, the facility is still up. But what I can promise is there's a lot of work happening. We're moving from the inside, or working from the inside out. So careful salvaging of different materials, building components, and also furniture. And so being mindful of the integrity that needs to be held for that repurpose, and just the safety. This leads us to handing over the facility here shortly to our construction manager at risk, which will head into the full demolition, construction, and then leading into a completion and open facility in late 2027. All right, so some of that positive feedback. A lot of this feedback you'll see as attributes in the design that Matthew will touch on. Some key single words that we heard repeatedly: bikeable, accessible, welcoming, walkable, outdoor green space, natural light, better acoustics, ease and safe of parking and access. Some other attributes that the library will provide for more effective services, and what we heard embedded in a lot of that feedback was the street access, or street level access and parking, enough parking, plentiful sidewalks and trails, and 360 connectivity to the neighborhoods. Better utilizing space. I'm going to connect on that. That was one of the comments in the planning, was how to define that. I can compare that to the current facility by identifying that the current facility is 3 levels, which then means a lot of circulation square footage. Also, at the current facility, the previous design and model had a lot of administrative and library support square footage, which isn't part of this current design. And also, with that multiple levels, there's multiple service points. And so, again, working with the efficiency of a new plan. However, we are getting more meeting spaces, better access to technology, a space for extended time for holds pickup, which is definitely a need. Our tenant on the second floor is mentioned, and then also partnering with Three Rivers Park District and the trail development, which I'll touch on shortly. We are truly embracing an opportunity to improve accessibility, strengthen our programming and partnerships, provide green space, and really showcase a strong, sustainable design. Here you can see that our design is filling a gap to promote connectivity to civic infrastructures, both to Edina, Richfield, and beyond. This is through the 9 Mile Creek Trail. This approach is a partnership with the city and Three Rivers districts as a multimodal trail encouraging various ways. And believe me, we've talked all the various different ways. I'm going to hand it over now to Matthew with MSR Design to share more details on the overall design and really explain how transformative this project is for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Federico, and thanks for being with us this evening, and good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Mayor, council members, and city staff, as I mentioned, my name is Matthew Kruntrad. I'm a principal architect with MSR Design. We work on libraries, public libraries across the nation, and I can really say that I'm going to talk about a very special library tonight. I'm going to represent many people, talented people, and engaged and excited people that from both the city and the design team, and I'll do my best to represent the work that they've done, which has been passionate. So offer up, just interject if you have questions along the way or hold them, but I'd just like to give a good impression of what we've been up to and open it up for conversation. So as was mentioned, there's an extreme amount of connectivity here, and I'll drill a little bit further into that and describe what that means in terms of how people can access the services that are going to be on the site. But really, at its core, we're trying to transform this site. As David mentioned earlier, we're moving from predominantly parking to green space, and that green space is full of trees. It's minimizing on-surface or impermeable surfacing, and then it's a restorative or reparative landscape. So building off of oak savanna, grasslands, and wetlands to mitigate changes that are happening in the environment and be resilient to that change long term. As a little bit of tidbit, there's about 19,000 cubic feet of excess water retention on site that we've designed in from what would be required. So we've gone above and beyond, And I'd just like to keep that in mind when we talk about some of these other things, because we really have gone above and beyond on the resiliency and the sustainable aspects of this, so that it's a long-term element within the community. Performance-driven design is built into the things you'll see here. So there's native landscapes. Rainfall is managed on site. We've oriented to the south to create daylit spaces. We're using healthy materials, so there aren't toxins and off-gassing in the construction. There's low embodied carbon, so we're capturing carbon. All this is based off of B3, Minnesota B3 guidelines, which are highly sustainable guidelines, again, reaching above and beyond in many aspects. There's solar PV array on top, and then geothermal heat pumps that are efficient inside of the mechanics of it. All that comes together as a really sustainable approach. On top of that, our restoration or reparative landscape has these different ecosystems, which will provide for biodiversity across the site, something that's not there right now, unless you consider asphalt something that's biodiverse. What that means is we'll have infiltration, we'll work with plant life and tree systems that will evapotranspirate. It improves the air quality, pollinators. A lot of the things that are built into your climate action plan that you've issued in 2021 are right in line with what we're looking at on this screen here. We sequester carbon through that amount of organic materials, especially with the root systems. There'll be migratory birds coming in. We've designed the building to kind of react and respond for safety of birds as well. And then just generally, we're people that want to engage in spaces, and that's what this is going to provide. I might, at the next slide, our planting palette is one that we'll have to establish over time. So as we know, native plants want to respond to the environment, and they have to be hardy and resilient. So it's not your kind of roll out the sod approach. So I might ask Britta to come up, if Britta's here, and just talk real quickly about what that looks like from a time frame in terms of establishing and what we're after here.
Sure. Thank you. Britta Hansen, landscape architect for the project. We are establishing, as Matthew has introduced, a landscape based on a gradient of pre-settlement biomes that would have been here in Edina prior to European settlement of this land. And so we're restoring the landscape and many of the benefits that the landscape can provide. But as mentioned, this takes more time in the beginning to establish that healthy, long-term, high quality, high biodiversity landscape. So we'll be investing through contracting and through strategic planning to invest in that maintenance in the first 3 years after planting to make sure that that landscape of native plant materials is well established. And then in the long term, it will actually provide more benefits and require less maintenance inputs over time.
Thank you, Britta. So I'll walk through real quickly what this means from the larger site. There's a typical water level. To the south of the site, we'll have retention space with the plantings. Again, this is not engaged space. It's you would experience it from afar, with the exception of a boardwalk that we're looking at installing that would give you some access right above it. But there'll be an area that has some water retention that's all there all year. And then as we experience rain events, 2-year, 24-hour storm, we'd get about 2.85 inches. That would start to fill up a little bit, and then it'd percolate in. So the site will really ebb and flow based on the water saturation and the seasons. If it's a larger 10-year event, you'll see how it starts to fill in more. And then 25-year. The landscape will hold this for about 4 days as it slowly dissipates in, and then the plant life will respond as well. So highly integrated. At a 100-year event, there's controlled reduction of the water levels through the system in a delayed manner. So all this is built into the thinking on the site and really transforming it from what it was. Ideas of what it would look like if you were on the south side. This was mentioned earlier with connectivity, and I'll talk a little bit more deeply about how we're making connectivity across the site. But again, across this wetland area towards the south-facing facade, letting daylight in, feeling very transparent and welcoming from the landscape. So some of the elements that are on site here, our car entry is the current car entry. So vehicular comes in the northeast side of the site where it is existing. We've minimized that. We've eliminated the York Street access point and really consolidated it into one. The parking system has permeable pavers, and it's within what we're considering the oak glade at the north portion of the site. So again, Oak Savanna's approach to the rejuvenation of the site. Parking is direct, and that's only a portion of the parking. We heard through the public engagement sessions that some on-grade parking and then below-grade parking, the balance of that is what we've worked with to provide what we think is the right amount, not too much and not too little. Libraries have very complicated parking structures. You have to drop a book off on the driver's side. You have to drop people off on the passenger side. So there's a bunch of security concerns that are built into this, and we've really honed that to separate those the coming and goings for people so that it's safe and effective and it doesn't create congestion and confusion. I'll show you a little bit what those access points looks like, but we have a book drop, we have surface parking. Underground parking has an access that's directly off of that surface parking, goes into basically under the footprint of the building. You can see there's a solar array on an upper roof that tilts south. There's a terrace system on the south, so you have on-grade terracing and outdoor spaces you can sit in, as well as a terrace that's on the second floor overlooking the south-facing lawn or the south-facing wetlands. There can be plaza and outdoor programming that's also very well connected to the 9 Mile Creek trail system as a part of the spur. Outdoor and learning landscape, again, there's pathways that are at the edges, but not necessarily going deep into the wetlands. So what does access look like? We've worked hard to look at this as part of the Southdale district and part of the neighborhood to the east, okay? So any of the access points on the corners is handicap accessible, so we've regraded it. If you've been out there, there's a really steep grade on the east side at the neighborhood, and then there's a tall building. It's really off-putting for the majority of the people that can actually walk here. And so we've worked really hard to make that a seamless integration of bicycles, pedestrians, and then again mentioning the vehicular separation that makes it safe. So the spur that comes through connects with the exception of the little gap between the park and the south corner, but it's really meant to kind of tie into the larger regional trail. Bus access remains on York. We've had continued conversations about where the location of those stops are in terms of safety and directness to the front door. The two locations really minimize access. So if you look at the northwest corner, we're looking at restricting or reducing the amount of walkway across the street from that bus stop, and then it goes right to a plaza-type area that directs to the front door on the north side. There's a front door on the south side as well, so there's two very connecting pieces that are accessible from all locations. What I would also like to remark on is that in the past we've had conversations about the Southdale District guidelines. What we've done is we've initiated a strategy to connect at all four corners plus mid-block. And the thinking here is that someday Southdale, across the street, maybe Target, will be densified, and you'll see more density all across here. And this will be a great respite inside of that and still very well connected with those guidelines in mind, so that the access points and pedestrian and multimodal all weave in together. You'll see a little later how we've addressed the scale on the east side to the neighborhood on the east, which is very small residences and higher on the hill. So there's an impact there that could be drastic, but we've really mitigated it into a really, I think, what is a delightful experience. You'll see some of that we pushed it to the northwest corner, away from the east, and then let the landscape play. You'll see some of the grading to the east, which really make it seamless. It almost it comes up and really makes it a one-story building on the east side. Vehicular access, this gives you just a little bit more of a diagrammatic idea of what that means. So if you were coming in from the entry on 70th, there's a two-way direction that gets you into the parking garage below grade, and then it's one way from that point to the drop-off, which enables us to kind of have a more safe access point for both drop-off, book drop, and coming to the library as well, with the ADA stalls that are close to the front door, and then also a few EV charging stations as well. You see the split of this parking stalls, the surface and underground stalls. So the planning on the first floor, which is mainly all library, it's meant to be very transparent and open. If you start from the entry at the top and work counterclockwise, that's all almost 100% glass, all the way around from starting at 12 o'clock on to 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, almost to 4 o'clock where the grade starts to fill up. That's all transparent glass. Anywhere you're standing around that, you could feel like you just walk right up and look inside the library or come in the front door. The staff area where you see the book drop is back of the house. That has higher windows, so it does let you see in. It's just not a grade. It gives the privacy for working and also allows daylight to come into the staff members. So working to try to get a nearly linear transparency all the way around. You come in either from the north or the south into the main library, all library space. The center has an atrium space. You'll see this in some of the renderings. Main collection on the floors there. There's a couple meeting room spaces. Right in the center, there's a large meeting space. And then the children's space is just off to the lower right corner of the plan, which is going to be really spectacular. It's right out, looking out to the south. And then there's some outdoor programming space for the children as well, just outside of that. And you'll see that in one of the renderings coming up. So this would be coming in just from the north. You walk into the library out of the parking, or you were just dropped off, or maybe you came on the bus or parked your bike, walked up from the neighborhood. You would see all the way through to the south, which would be, you'd see right out into the wetland, and then you see the collection start to unfold. The service desk is just off to the left, so the helpful librarian would be right there, and then you see up through this atrium space up to what would be the terrace straight ahead of you, so public terrace out overlooking the south. Edina Arts Center is just up to the upper right, so you'll see some imagery that give you a sense of what that is. This is the new market. This is where you're going to come and get your popular materials. You're going to walk in, you're going to have something on hold, very convenient and easy. We like to make it easy, but we want to make it also that you like change your mind and you stay, right? You don't just come in and take it and go. And I think this library is really headed towards that. This is if you went back into the corner for the children's area. Again, you would be looking out into the South Plaza just to the right, and then there's a children's programming area just off to the left, and then the grade starts to slope up towards the neighborhood. And again, if you just went right out, there's a door there. You could wander out, and there's an ADA accessible point that goes right to mid-block. So very accessible compared to what is currently there in that location. If you went up to the second floor, we have controlled access where you see the elevator in the kind of bluish square. We've designed it to have after-hours access, so library and arts center can have differing schedules, and you can have evening events or things like that. So very convenient in that. The reading balcony is associated with a planted terrace. There'll be casual seating up here. It'll probably be used quite a bit just in terms of reading or engaging in content. Any of the arts center would be in the pink areas as well. There's great exhibits. There's a gallery space along with some gathering space. And then the public meeting room, larger public meeting room is on the southeast corner that has facilities to facilitate larger events. And then also the area just outside of it is part of the engagement space and then spill out into the terrace if wanted. There's some outdoor space just to the east. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. This would be standing on that seating terrace, looking back down. That's that service point just in the lower right corner. So you would see where you came, if you came in from the north, you would see that. Straight ahead is gallery space and then some pre-function spaces, but pre-function is usually what we use for larger events and things like where community can gather as well. But you can kind of see how this is going to be, you can imagine wanting just to come sit on the terrace. It has a covering over it, so it does mitigate solar. This is, you can imagine, a complete glass wall facing south. We've tuned it in a way to allow the sun to heat in the winter, and then the shading enables us to keep it cool in the summer. So it's very tuned to the environment, so it doesn't use a lot of energy in comparative to other facilities. And then there's also bird-safe glass. So all this glass has a frit on it that helps make sure that birds won't try to fly through it. They see it as well because of the biodiversity that we're building into the site.
Matt, do you want to touch on the clear story?
Oh, yeah. So if you just look off to the right, there's a clear story skylight that it comes in. And what that does is it helps us get almost 100% daylight autonomy. So we're reducing electrified light inside the space. But it's also really great light for an arts center. So north light coming in is really ideal for the type of work that's going to be there. And there's other benefits of if you're standing out in the plaza on the south, it'll look like you just look through the building to the sky. So it's very transparent and welcoming in terms of its ability to kind of try to reduce the barriers to the interior space. This would be what it's like, the feeling that we're after on the terrace side, so there'll be plantings on it as well. Again, all of this is a system, so we're capturing rainwater on the roof, we're managing it down onto the terrace, and then we're managing it through the site to slow it down and ensure that we don't cause problems downstream in the engineering needs that most municipalities are struggling with right now to compensate for the increased flow of water. So very sensitive to future impacts and how this can mitigate the current conditions and what's to come. This is looking at the structure from the northwest corner. Again, that plaza going right to the front door. It's a taller structure, but it's really meant to quiet down and focus on the landscape and then direct you to the front door. There'll be some signage here for the library and then connectivity to the walkways and paths across the site. But you see that transparency looking right into the collection. And then from this perspective, you won't really see the parking. So as we go around through this, even though when you see it in a plan, it looks like there's a big swath of parking, the way it's tucked into the landscape, it really is, you're either looking over the vehicles or you're kind of obscured from them. So it's really kind of intimate feel as you go around the building. And really the main thing you're going to feel is the landscape and the plantings that we were discussing earlier on the landscape. Again, all of this glazing will have the bird-safe strategies associated with them to make sure that biodiversity maintains itself. This is becoming from the drop-off plaza just to the north, the parking just off to the left, and then that entry going right through. There's seating areas. Obviously, if you want somebody to come and wait or you're being picked up, you'd have a comfortable space to sit in. And then you also see up into the Arts Center up on the second floor. Main elevator and stair is a wayfinding piece, so it's very clear. If you're picking somebody up after hours, it's I'll see you coming down the stairs from the second floor. Very easy. This is coming from that, I mentioned earlier, that ADA access along the east neighborhood. So you can kind of see up on that hill how the scale is reduced because of the topography that we've shaped, but it also gives us an opportunity to make this outdoor space for the children, programming, right associated with that children's space, which is just at that lower corner that we saw from the inside out earlier. And then again, this is on a path that's accessible right up to the front door from the neighborhood. We want it to be the sledding hill in the winter, so paying attention as well as we love our winters here and what that might mean for the community as, hey, just let's walk out of the neighborhood and engage in the landscape. We have some great images of what this site was before. It was a gravel pit of, and actually I think Peggy was one of those kids that was riding her Honda 50 in the gravel pits. And what a wonderful thing to be able to kind of repair and restore the landscape, but keep that kind of life and connection to it, almost as if we're all, how old were you? 8 years old? Yeah. We should all be 8. We've developed strategies for all these trees, and so I'm from Nebraska. About 20 miles from the birth of Arbor Day, but and they don't have enough trees, right? But there are a ton of trees here, and that's what's so great about Minnesota in general.
Guy should learn when to keep his mouth shut, shouldn't he?
No offense taken. I'm here because I love the trees, right? But definitely. As David mentioned, there are a lot of trees that are being deployed throughout the site, and it will fill in and grow with time in a really elegant way, and with the idea of resiliency embedded in it. So the idea of not just the plantings, but the trees that will be resilient as things change long term, and that's a goal of the whole facility, because this is a decades and decades and decades long facility. This would be just as you come to the south, you're just off of the spur for the trail, looking towards the south entry and the plaza above. There you can kind of see, if you look at the second level, you're seeing all the way through the building. That's that clear story, right through to the sky again. So very transparent. These are some different moods you might feel throughout the day as you come in the evening on a bike ride or something and get that last opportunity to pick up a book for tomorrow morning, right? So that's
I just want to interject.
Yeah.
I'm sure others have comments as well, but as you've gone through, we've looked at all the elevations and all the interior and exterior spaces. It's just one remarkable place to spend time after another, whether it's indoors or outdoors, and it's extraordinary. Thank you for that good work. You should be really proud of yourself. Your team should be really proud of itself.
Thank you, and I can't stress how much of the talented people, not only from the design team, but the county and the city, everybody has really come together on this, and I do appreciate the comment. It's and I take that for all of the people that have been involved. That's what's so special about libraries for me, is that if we do them right, you will find a different place in the morning, you'll find a different place in the evening, and you'll come back twice in one day, right? And I think that's what's so great about it. Not only the programming, but the things that you can get from it. And I hope design can actually do that. So thank you. So some of this was gone over earlier, but our strategy is to try to not overwhelm. I think we've done better than the existing building for sure. And make sure that we integrate and are responsive to the neighborhood to the east, and make it a welcoming approach from the east as well. So just as a little bit more detail, That you see the dashed line there, that's the existing height. The blue line is what we're proposing, and it really is mainly that clear story, that transparent area that's letting light into the center of the building that gets to that height. There you see it again. So that just off right, that highest point is the piece that kind of gets up into that height area. So materials that were mentioned, these are, it's a champagne material aluminum panel that we're looking at, and we really want it to be subtle and quiet, nothing that's really jarring or in your face. It'll change throughout the day because it has a vertical texture to it, so depending on the daylight. And this is really built to try to kind of mimic the idea of trees and different light qualities that come through them. So you'll experience a kind of dappled light on the second level, and then some on the first level with that transparency. So we're really trying to break down the scale and just make it a quiet second level that sits on the landscape on the left, on the east, and then hovers over the transparency on the west. And then there's some it's mainly durable materials, again, decades and decades long. We want to reduce maintenance. The clear story is just a very simple glass piece that sits on top. This is the west facade. You're seeing similar strategy as well as mainly I think what you'll notice is the terrace as you come around the covering, because it'll be very open and transparent. There's some perforated metals that we're using, but mainly it's all meant to be tuned to reflect light and minimize the solar gain. And as well, if you've ever been in a library and you need to wear glasses or anything like that, glare is a huge piece. So these fins that we're putting on, these aluminum fins, are meant to minimize the amount of glare, but also let a lot of daylight in, so it's bouncing light in. So it's all tuned for the uses that we're intending to have inside. The south side, you've seen other images that are renderings along this. Just off to the right, you see how that grade goes up, and then there's that's where the kiln facility is for the Arts Center, but it sits on a landscape. It's a very small scale compared to the rest of the building next to the neighborhood. There you see in this wide area. So it really is kind of a one-story structure at the neighborhood side, with the exception where it slopes down and you sled around the corner towards the front door. There's all 4 elevations. So a very limited palette, but mainly using shade and shadow and changes throughout the day. Very durable and resistant materials. The aluminum and or stainless steel is meant to resist any corrosion or anything like that, and be maintainable so that there isn't ongoing maintenance. So again, this south side, I did mention it, but there's a 4-point connectivity. There's a path that connects on the south side as well, and it can be that enticement to go around the corner and come into the library. That's a lot of it. There's a lot more, but I'd like to leave it open for any other questions or clarification.
That's a good perspective. And again, I would just say, as many of us have gone to places like Washington, D.C. over time and seen what our federal government has done with architecture, celebrating different things in more recent years, the African American Museum and the Native American Museum, and then to have a development partner in a county government that is so sensitive to design and function, it's remarkable. And so for the administrators at the county and the board at the county to think in a grand way about what public spaces ought to be like and how special public places should be is really, it's really affirming of, I think, what we've tried to do here in our town, even with our own city hall here, which has stood the test of time over the last 20 years and is still a wonderful place. So congratulations again to both you as an architect, but also the county as the developer, as the sponsor of this, and wanting to do the best possible thing they could for their system and for our town. Thank you for that. Member Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just really briefly, I was trying to count the slides, and like, you guys should do this, but I think you were 20 slides in before you even got into the building. And so all of the features outside, just as Mayor was saying, I think that it's a draw to interact with the entire space. And so I just thought that was really cool, the way you're being purposeful in everything you're designing outside, so that it's a feature for the entire city. And so I definitely thank you for that. I was laughing with Member Agnew. I drove out there a couple weeks ago from work, was planning to do some writing, and I think I got all the way over there and I thought, oh, it's closed. And somehow I forgot that. But there's 3 libraries that I spend a lot of time in: Ridgedale, Minneapolis, downtown, and the Southdale. And I think this for sure will be my favorite when it's completed. So I definitely tell the entire team, I think they're doing a fabulous job, and whatever we can do to help further the getting the building done, I think we're all in alignment to try and do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to start by saying thank you to the county. This is an extraordinary investment in our community. And it's just, we are so lucky that this is going to be coming to us. And it's beautiful and it's functional. And I've been to so many of these meetings of the neighbors coming in and talking. So first of all, I just want to start with a great big thank you. The second one is thank you for handling the complexity of this project. And Ms. Federico in particular, this is super complex. And just from the public side of what people are asking for here, and then when you add in the park district, the watershed district, us and our art center, and everything, this is so complex, and I want to thank you all for your very hard work in making it come together. I actually have a question. Well, first of all, thank you also for the glare reduction. I hadn't thought about that, but with all that sunlight, having to sit and read, it sounds pretty amazing. So it will be a good place to read as well as to come visit and everything. So that's really cool. The one question I have is, in this water retention area, will it be possible for staff to go out and pick up garbage in that area? I know that the public is not invited to walk in there, but it's in an urban area and there will be plastic bags and paper cups and stuff. Is that accessible for maintenance?
Yeah, I think Britta would be best to answer how these are maintained. I might say something wrong.
Sure, yes. The wetland area is not intended for the public to go into it, but there are gravel trails around it, and it will be accessible for maintenance staff. There will be detailed maintenance plans for how the landscape maintenance professionals can get in there and do yearly mowing and trash collection and those sorts of things.
Okay, great, thank you. I figured you had, but I had to ask. And so I just want to conclude, Ms. Federico, you start out talking with the mission of the library, and it has one of my favorite phrases in it, lifelong learning. In 2015, the City of Edina did a visioning process, and there were 2 values that stood up above and beyond everything else: environmental sustainability and lifelong learning. And so I'm just blown away by bringing this to our community. So thank you all very much.
Member Agnew, and then Member Russer.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Even just to build off of what Member Jackson was just saying, it's exciting to see, the revitalization, the replacement of the library that's there today, but even the great partnership that we're having with the Edina Art Center, finding a new space for that, being able to invest into the pottery experience and all of that. Like, I cannot imagine, or I could not have created probably a better partnership in the vein of learning and continuing education, of bringing those two things together. So thank you for your partnership on that. When I go and I watch the Planning Commission, and I definitely heard, I think it was Chair Bennett, really, I think, wanting more, right, from this project and from this site. And I know that this has been a multi-year effort, more than that if you go way, way back. And I know that we reviewed, possible opportunities that were evaluated of could there be housing on this site and what would that look like. And, if I look at it in a silo, part of me is still like disappointed in the sense that we weren't able to find something that worked to also add housing or to do something else. And I can't imagine like a better project here. And so it's really good to, know that there's something that we're missing out on as a community, but at the same time, with the inclusion of all the community aspects, the outdoor area, the wetlands, the water retention, all of those things I think make this really a perfect project. So it's amazing to see it come together. I will, though, ask the question about parking. I always do. And I know Commissioner Alkire was kind of pushing on this point. And what's hard for me is when you dig into the numbers of the parking study that was conducted. It was peak evaluation of 116 spaces needed. I know as a city, we would require 160. Tell me how we landed on a number, 184, that's bigger than what we require. It's bigger than what the peak estimated was going to be. And I know you spoke to this on the Planning Commission, but even just like reiterate why you think 184 is the right number, and maybe we can have some dialogue on that.
Yeah, again, there's the science of it, and then there's what we see in examples. And I don't know how to not overstress or talk about the impact of this facility. In my career, I haven't worked on a facility that I think is as spectacular as this. And with it being located as a regional location, so you're going to get a draw from outside the community, what you would consider community here. The demand is really hard to measure, and I just know there's going to be a lot of people coming, and I see that from examples of other regional libraries we do, especially when it's at this caliber. I mean, this is world class. So, you think of a world where there's social media and the places you want to be, and how what we hope to have described here is such a delightful place. That's the hardest part to measure. And I think we just know from our experience that it's going to be, especially at the larger events, and you have partnerships, right? These aren't common. A partnership of a library and an arts center, those two things from a lifelong learning of, learning through the mind and then learning through your hands. You don't see that at libraries, and those things are going to come together in a really magical way. So what we've done is we've looked at that, and we've talked deeply with Hennepin County and what they typically need for their clientele, and from our experiences, and we've tried to balance it and not go too far, and then mitigate it through how we've designed it, and that's really the process to date.
I'll add a couple also. So as I mentioned, through the various different community engagements, parking was a very hot topic, and kind of communicating the need, also managing that what we could put under the building based on the square footage and the perimeter, and then also being respectful to what was on the surface as well, and really being mindful of how we designed it too. And so working through that. Also, right or wrong, as we shared our data to our consultant to make that recommendation or that peak demand, we used our best guess, but it also is historic data too. And so we don't have a crystal ball, both in terms of a world-class arts center being in this central location or a library at this scale and design. So using that data to inform, as Matthew mentioned, the scientific or the logarithms that expert provided, we did our own. And so having that relationship between the forecasting got us to that number that we had, plus the informative of the community as well.
Thank you for that, and thank you for providing a little bit more, insight and experience. What's hard is right in every picture that we see of the existing library, we see the sea of parking. And you look across the street and you see how much parking is at the Target. And it's 1 or 2 days a year that maybe the parking there is filled. And that's even a site that I think is technically underparked based off of the city requirements. And so I am just curious if 5-10 years down the road, we get to a point where we're like, oh gosh, we've never even seen like the surface lot filled in and no one's even using the basement for 6 months of the year. Is that an opportunity for myself to come to you and say like, hey, can we just like eliminate a little bit of this and create some green space or rethink some of the surface parking? Would you be open to that if it's identified that it's not being fully utilized?
I think I'll respond and encourage if there's any from my team members that want to add. I think one strategy, so just showing like the confidence that we have, we're putting a parking counter or awareness of if the underground is full or not, because we have so much confidence. Regardless of that, I think there is opportunity for us to keep that lens. We always keep a lens on how our buildings are being utilized, both in terms of durability, the continued maintenance and preservation we have to do. So that same attitude can be used in terms of the use, because we do that for how often our doors are used, and it's starting to not, be in the good shape in order to be used. I'd argue if that's the reverse for parking, that same evaluation can be done.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Agnew. Member Risser.
I also really appreciate all the work that has gone into this. And I do want to push back on the idea of the Southdale design guidelines not really being followed, because I think you really are breaking up the space beautifully. The other thing is, as I look at the Southdale design guidelines and I see county roads going through this area, I wonder, do our design guidelines respect county road policy? Because what you're doing is eliminating a driveway area, and our guidelines continually encourage more driveways onto your county roads. So it's kind of I think you've provided a wonderful solution, and I hope it is something that is picked up and used at other development sites. So thank you for that. I did watch the Planning Commission, so I don't have a lot of concerns. I did bring in an image that I wanted to show. I, too, have Nebraska connections. My mom grew up there. And every summer, I summered in Hastings for like 2 weeks. And I remember just that overwhelming sense of heat. And this is not the greatest picture, but if you go to Google Maps, this is what you're going to see when you plunk down at York. And your corner, you can view your site as a sea of asphalt. Your site has some of the fewest trees in our area. And if you look across the street, how desolate that road is, this is the little enchanted library forest. And so if you can keep part of that, that would be absolutely wonderful. There's also a cluster of hackberries, and everything's relative, but when it is really hot and humid and 90, 100 degrees, and people are walking across, your corner is the only one where they get some relief and some shade. And I'm thinking, if, somehow this could be maintained, that would be absolutely wonderful. I really can't get enthusiastic about another open plaza because then no one's going to have any place to go. So I don't know if that could be really rethought. That's my biggest concern. Well, actually, the other concern idea I have, but as I was seeing all your beautiful images, I don't know if it would be possible, but just because it's a learning center, because you have so much light, could a few of those glass panels, or maybe just one, be one that had solar energy generation capabilities in it as a learning experience for kids on the inside? That's one thought I had. The other thought, and this is actually, I want to credit Commissioner Alkire, he talked about, could we work in some kind of specific language requiring the sidewalk that the city needs to build in order to connect your building to Adams Park, but that's not really on you, but I think it's on us, and I would really like to see that commitment. So that's all I have, but beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you. Great observations. Thank you.
All right. Stand by. This is a public hearing. I don't know if anyone else wishes to testify on the public hearing that's in the audience. You're certainly welcome to as part of the team. But I'm going to open it up now for public testimony. And if you folks sit down, we'll see what happens here. See if anybody comes forward. I don't see anybody other than your team here. But nonetheless, we'll see if anybody wants to come forward to testify regarding this matter. And this matter was the potential issuance of a conditional use permit and a building height variance for the library site at 7001 York Avenue South. Seeing no one coming forward and hearing nothing, I'm going to turn to Director Benarott and see if we have anybody online that wishes to testify.
It's a very quiet night over here in call-in land. Because the public hearing just opened and there is a slight delay in the broadcast, I'd recommend we wait a minute or so, giving people an opportunity to call in if they so desire. My clock shows that it's 8:58, so I'll come back to you at 8:59, whichever, or when we get a caller, whichever's first.
All right. Thank you for that. While you're waiting, I think the recommended motion from staff is that we do what we've been doing recently on some of the public hearings, and that is, with respect to this matter, close the public input at noon on Sunday, the 6th of April, and then continue the action to our meeting on Wednesday, April 16th. So keep that in mind as we wait for the passage of time here, calculated by Director Benarott.
All right, it is 8:59 and I still don't have a caller, so I think it's safe for you to move forward with the agenda.
Thank you, Director Benarott. The motion would be to close the public input on this matter at noon on Sunday, April 6th, and continue the action, which would involve the potential issuance of a conditional use permit, site plan and building height variance for 7001 York Avenue. Continue that matter to the Wednesday, April 16, 2025 meeting of the Edina City Council. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A second.
Got a motion by Member Jackson, second by Member Agnew to adopt that motion as stated. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The motion is adopted. The public input will be possible until noon on Sunday, April 6th, and we will continue this matter to our meeting on the evening of April 16, 2025. Thank you, the entire team, for being here, including the administrator and the assistant administrator. Thank you for sticking around. Thanks for being with us earlier at the work session. And maybe we'll see some of you on the 16th. All right, very good. Have a good rest of the evening. We're going to move on to the reports and recommendations portion of the agenda, and we've got the donations. portion of it now, and Resolution 2025-29 accepts donations on behalf of the City of Edina. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Member Pierce moves and Member Jackson seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-29, which accepts certain designated donations on behalf of the City of Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2025-29 say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Motion 2025-29 is adopted. And in this reporting period, Bob Thompson and Jack Weston, our local historian Bob Thompson, and then Jack Weston, one of our local photographers, put this beautiful book together with wildlife along the creek. And they're going to be at our April 16th meeting to make a presentation. I watched on Saturday afternoon, they did a presentation over at Artisan Acres, and it was fascinating how beautiful these photos are. And they're going to bring books for all of you, all the council members, to pass out. And so they'll be here on the 16th. So they've given 3 books to the city. Both Joan Rowe and Ann and David Braden have donated $3,200 respectively for memorial benches at Artisan Acres Park and Centennial Lakes Park in honor of loved ones now departed. And then Keeladale Garden Club has donated $350 for a tree at Artisan Acres. And the Garden Club of Minneapolis donated 3 bags of compost for community gardens. So thank you to all those donors, and their names will be posted on the website. And the next and last portion of the activity under this portion of the agenda is a continuation of our conversation about Ordinance 2025-04, which would be a potential amendment of the that ordinance and allow some activity, sidewalk related, on electric assisted bicycles. So we've got Director Milner here, and Lieutenant Dave Venny is with us this evening as well. And we're going to revisit this topic to see if we want to do anything about this.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of council. So since the packet was published, we've had a conversation with Member Risser, and we have a better understanding of her comments from the last meeting. And Attorney Kendall provided some feedback that you all saw this evening. So we may or may not be able to get this approved this evening. Let me start with Section 1. So the definition, staff does support Member Risser's suggestions from the last meeting. And where a definition of the sidewalk would mean the portion of a street between the curb lines or the lateral lines of a roadway and the adjacent property lines intended for use for pedestrians. So that doesn't limit other uses, but it says intended for pedestrians. So staff would support that change. It's not shown in your packet because we just talked about that this evening. Staff really feels Section 2 is the most important one of this ordinance. Right now, state statute does not have a requirement to have helmets for individuals 15 to 17 or under 18 years old. We think that's very important to have that in there quickly, so the police department has something to start these education outreach initiatives with members of our public that are biking without helmets in that age range, so they can start those conversations. So that's really the most important part of this ordinance this evening. And then Section 3, we would recommend that you leave it as is. And then the last option, if there's a will of the council, a majority, to say that we should reconsider bikes on sidewalks, we would remind you of all the public engagement we had when that originally came forward and all the work that the Transportation Commission did at the time. And we would say that we wouldn't recommend doing that just this evening, that you would send that back to staff, the ETC, and our consultants are working on the safe and equitable mobility plan, which is trying to merge all of our bike and ped master plans, living streets plans. And we could have that conversation of bikes on sidewalks at the same time and bring back potentially any changes at a later date on the sidewalk. So I would offer that we use the definition submitted by Member Risser for sidewalk and approve all else of the ordinance. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Member Pierce.
Can you repeat what you were saying about sidewalks just now?
If you wanted to regulate bikes on sidewalks, that portion?
Yes, yeah.
So I would not recommend that, because in 2014-15, Mark Nolan was a transportation planner. There was a huge outreach for the Bike and Ped Master Plan, and the Transportation Commission put a lot of work in to change the ordinance to allow bicycles and sidewalks. So I would feel like we should re-engage the community and the ETC, and we have an opportunity with the safe and equitable mobility plan that's being developed right now. We could have that conversation as part of that work that's scheduled for 2025.
With more community input,
Exactly,
is your point. All right, and so then you're suggesting helmets and the definition of a sidewalk.
Yep, so the red line copy that's in the packet, I would just change the definition to the state statute that Member Risser suggested last time. And I can read it if we need that, and I would leave the rest of the changes in there.
And then you would recommend leaving the rest as is, but then we would lean into use of bicycles on sidewalks, but we would use our public, I guess I'll call it public process.
That's what the council wanted, to revisit that decision.
at that
We could
time.
do that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Member Jackson.
So this is a question for you, Mr. Mayor. Can we offer an amendment to what's proposed here and adopt that this evening so we could adopt the ordinance?
We could.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to, act on the amendment first and then act on the amended ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll let other questions go forward, but I'd like to offer that amendment when it's appropriate.
Okay, so do you want to talk about what the amendment that we were just discussing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right, is there anybody else that has, I've got some clarification still that I need. Member Agnew, I'll go to you first.
Thank you. So just to be explicit, as it's written here, even whatever the changing might be regarding the definition of a sidewalk, this would still allow, as written, for bicycles and e-bikes to be used on sidewalks. If we wanted to change that, we would revisit that, do the public process, but as written, nothing would be preventing that. Is that correct?
Correct, and I'd probably let Attorney Kendall provide any other details.
Okay, thank you.
Bicycles are currently permitted on sidewalks. This would allow e-bikes on sidewalks as well, which is actually the presumption currently in state statute that they are permitted on sidewalks. And then if the council wanted to revisit that issue, you could do that through the public engagement process.
Thank you for just
Thank you.
being clear. Thank you.
Member Risser.
I would really like to see this be amended and approved tonight, because I do think there is a time concern, and I think their educational programming that's being proposed is really valuable, particularly surrounding helmets. If we wanted to think about changing this ordinance, there are other things we could do, and I guess I think coming back to it at a later date would make sense. I know Minneapolis has no bikes in business on sidewalks near business areas. That could be something that we thought about. But I think, to Director Milner's point, it's a conversation that needs to be done methodically and with more time.
And we do restrict bikes in the 50th and France district.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's already signs on the periphery of that district.
So what I'm still a little bit confused about is, in section 2A, we define a bicycle within the meaning of MnSTAT 169.011 subdivision 4. Then we've added a section 2B, which defines an electric assisted bicycle, has the meaning given it in MnSTAT 169.011 and 169.222. So by virtue of being defined in 169.011, does that turn an electric assisted bicycle into a bicycle, because the bicycle is also defined under that section of the statute?
Mayor, if that's a question for me, I would say no. The definitions in the state statute distinguish between the two. I mean, obviously, an electric assisted bicycle is a type of bicycle, but it's distinguished in the statute between an electric assisted bicycle and a standard bicycle.
So where in this ordinance do you see where it allows you to ride an electric assisted bicycle on a sidewalk?
Go ahead.
Well, state statute covers that. How they define a bicycle includes both, and it's presumed that it's not illegal to ride on a sidewalk, so you could ride on a sidewalk. and our code allows riding on a sidewalk with bicycles.
So why didn't we say that an electric assisted bicycle is a bicycle under state statute instead of doing it the way we did? Because I think it was confusing for me a little bit. I thought, well, are they allowed or not allowed? Because we had that conversation. I've got a personal concern about whether electric assisted bicycles ought to be on a sidewalk. And I frankly, if electric assisted bicycles under this proposed ordinance are allowed on the sidewalk, then I'm going to vote against it because I don't think they should be on the sidewalk. Because you can't ride a bike, electric assisted bike, unless you're at least 15. And I think then you should have enough, you should be savvy enough riding a bike to be able to ride it on the street. Because on balance, for me, it's more important to keep pedestrians safe than to think about keeping some people that want to ride an e-bike, e-assisted bike on the sidewalk safe. Because I think those e-bikes pose more danger to a pedestrian than a pedestrian does to a bicycle. I just think we need to think about keeping pedestrians safe. And to me, the way you do that is you keep, there's some risk with bicycles on the sidewalk. We haven't had that experience, fortunately, but I think with e-bikes and the stories we've had anecdotally from people in our town about the experiences they've had having e-bikes roar up on them from behind, I think, I personally think it's a bad idea. So bicycles continuing on sidewalks, basically the status quo, adding that language around bicycle paths, bicycle trails, and shared use paths, fine by me. The e-bikes on sidewalks, not for me.
I'd just offer one comment that I think the e-bikes in the situations that you're getting emails, they are not e-bikes. They're these unregulated electric mobiles that I agree with. They shouldn't even be on the sidewalks. And they're not even in a classified. So I think there's that. If I was thinking about actual e-bike users, I think they're normal bike users. It's these unclassified, almost electric motorcycles that you see going down the sidewalk. But just a comment.
Yeah, but an electric assisted bike, as I understand it, is one that you can get an assist from if you feel like you need it. You're going up a hill and it's a little bit tough. You can employ a little bit of an electric assist. Maybe you still have to pedal to do it.
That's the key, is the pedaling. It's these things that don't even have pedals and they're running up the sidewalks.
Nonetheless, with an e-assisted bike, you can still achieve speeds up to what, 20 miles an hour?
Yep. Yeah. 28 for a
See, that's where it gets risky for me. So whether it's a straight old e-bike or an e-assisted bike, I just think on balance for me, the risks are too steep when you orient it around pedestrians. And you've got a different opinion.
Well, I do, and I think that we should have this as a community discussion because they are in the same bicycle class and would welcome that broader community, but whatever the council so wishes.
Go ahead. Member Jackson, go ahead.
Just to follow up on your comments, my understanding on the presentation that we had 2 weeks ago was that by passing something and requiring the helmets, we can start a public education campaign. Because I think one of the problems that we have are the young kids riding these electric assist bikes, and we need to get the word out that they're not allowed to. And how do we do this safely? And by passing this ordinance, we trigger a public safety campaign, which is the best way on your training that the two of you went through for making this safe. And that simply banning it at this point, we lose that opportunity for education. Can you clarify that a little bit for me, please?
Yeah, we think the best case is education and outreach, both the users, right? We've seen a lot of that age range 15 to 17, but also the parents and the families. They shouldn't be buying, it's not legal to have these under 15. And those are probably the kids that we're seeing these worst behaviors on sidewalks. I don't know if Lieutenant Vinnie wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of calls from parents of middle school age children asking, can we buy these things for our children? And the answer is for us, if you're not 15, no, you can't. And unfortunately, we get well, my neighbor has one, or my neighbor's neighbor has one. And we're actually working with the schools right now because the assistant principal is concerned about some of the driving conduct of the middle schoolers, right? Well, the simple solution is they're not legal for a 13-year-old to be able to drive to ride. So by incorporating a ordinance with helmet requirement that allows our officers some engagement, right? Because right now, if someone's riding an e-bike without a helmet, it's tough. 13 to 15, what does that age look like? So hopefully that answered your question there.
I like that idea too, the helmet under 18. I think that's a great idea, but I still don't like the idea of anything e-assisted on a sidewalk or the higher powers. Remember, Pierce.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I don't think anybody disagrees with you. I think we all care about safety. I think what I am hearing is that we should follow more due diligence to write an ordinance to address those issues. And so what I'm hearing us say is status quo for now, with the exception of the helmet. And then, what am I missing? The helmet and
the definition.
The definition of a sidewalk. And then we will follow the public process to really come up with something that is more comprehensive, because I do think it is more complicated than that. When you start looking at class 2, class 3, what's an e-bike, what's state statute, how does it govern it? I think we do need to spend more due diligence on it and have more of a public process to figure out what we should do to ensure that we've got the safety. So this is like an interim thing.
But in the meantime, they can ride e-assist on the sidewalk while we make up our mind what to do. I mean, that's what bothers me. I feel like you can do an educational program without that component. I feel like, okay, define bicycle as anything that doesn't have a electric or a gas motor on it. It's not powered by anything other than your legs. I like so many parts of it. It's just to allow in the gap. I think it's just risky to allow electric assisted anything on the sidewalk.
Well, just to underscore the complexity of it for tonight, I'm actually not super excited about having any bicycles on sidewalks, but that's not what we have in place today. So I'd be arguing no bicycles or e-bikes on sidewalks. If we're going to do that, it has to be, on a shared path, like so 9 Mile Creek, right? There's clearly pedestrian cyclists. And so that's where my head would be from, and because of the same reasons you said, from a safety perspective. But I don't think we're gonna get to that tonight in that way.
Member Risser.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if we could just get rid of, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but any language that allows the electric bikes, if it's separated out, or just add a statement saying electric powered bikes are not allowed. But I think, I get concerned when I hear I don't want to see any bikes on sidewalks. I look at kids biking to Pamela Park on the sidewalk by Valley View Road, and I am happy that they are on the sidewalk and not in the road. So there's that.
I just am looking at that definition of bicycle in that 169.011 subdivision 4. A bicycle means every device capable of being propelled solely by human power upon which any person may ride, having 2 tandem wheels and including any device generally recognized as a bicycle, though equipped with 2 front or rear wheels. And then they add one more sentence that says bicycle includes an electric assisted bicycle as defined in subdivision 27. You could take that last sentence right out of there and leave the definition of bicycle intact and create our own definition. And then it says B, subpart B is bicycle does not include scooters, motorized foot scooters, or similar devices, which is what Director Milner was talking about, which we all think are too dangerous for the sidewalk. So it doesn't seem to me that it's that difficult to create a definition of bicycle that excludes electric-assisted bicycles by just dropping that last sentence from 169.011 subdivision 4, creating our own definition and doing it tonight.
If we do that, I would still want us to go through the public process, because I don't, to respond to Member Risser, like, I think that's what part of the complexity. When I say no bikes on sidewalks, I'm actually talking about people that are riding, they're like cyclists, and they're out there. And I get nervous when they're behind me. I'm actually not talking about a middle schooler on a bike. But how do you write that into an ordinance at 9:20 p.m.? I don't know. But if we are going to try to cover that kind of complexity, we have to do more due diligence around what the issue is that we're actually trying to solve. So whatever we do tonight is, I think, is interim.
I did not mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done. Okay. I see the logic of the mayor's point that we could have the dialogue about whether to include electric bicycles at a later date. I think we're not saying that we're going to ban bikes from sidewalks, and that would be where we'd be getting into the level of complexity. But his point that, why don't we not do electric bikes now and have the discussion and then figure out if it makes sense for us, I think is just in my head and I can't get rid of it. It's very logical. So I would be in favor of that. And but trying to move this forward tonight because there is kind of, I don't want this to get kicked down the road.
So I agree with that. The only thing I'm saying is we should follow the process from the recommendation that we do more due diligence on the ordinance. And in the interim, helmets, definition of sidewalk, and then we can have a definition of no e-bikes.
Definition of bicycle that excludes
of bicycle that e-assisted bikes, and write that into the ordinance now. But then we would follow the process to do the rest of the due diligence.
Member Jackson, do you want to give us that language?
So I've got the sidewalk language. Sidewalk means that portion of a street between the curb lines, comma, or the lateral lines of a roadway, comma, and the adjacent property lines intended for the use of pedestrians.
So that would be a substitute for the language in section 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I have a question. If we're looking at the public process, what's the timeline anticipated for that? Is that a 2-year process? Is it a 6-month process? What's the general timeline for this extended public process about the entire bike plan?
Yep, it was a 1-year plan, and they just got started in March, so it'd be the first quarter of 2026.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out how to make section 2. There is no, there's a subsection A in there, but there's B. So we'd eliminate A. So all we need there is we'd substitute that. We would use the definition of bicycle, but eliminate that last sentence, which says bicycle includes an electric-assisted bicycle as defined in subdivision 27. So the definition then would be bicycle means every device capable of being propelled solely by human power upon which any person may ride, having 2 tandem wheels and including any device generally recognized as a bicycle, though equipped with 2 front or rear wheels, period. So you could do that as subsection A, eliminate B, and then subpart 1 there could become B, I suppose. Any person under the age of 18, blah, blah, blah. The helmet part of it. So you would define bicycle in A and then have that helmet language on B. And everything else would stay the same. And you'd add that definition of sidewalk. substitute definition of sidewalk in there. So anybody get that?
Well, I would recommend keeping the subsection B because we want the helmets on electric assisted bicycles. So you're talking about changing A, instead of using a statutory definition of bicycle, have our definition of bicycle. And then I would keep any person operating a bicycle on any street
so
or
would
bicycle lane.
Yeah, I maybe didn't explain it very well. I
Yeah.
keep that.
And then keep B, because for purposes of this article, then you define electric assisted bicycle, and then electric assisted bicycles, people riding them under 18 have to have a helmet. So you need that definition still in there. Or
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, what you could do is just move that for purposes of this article, move it in behind what's labeled as 1. So first you talk about the helmet, and then you define the like e-assisted bike. Although I suppose you could leave it the way it is.
I just would change the first sentence of A to a shortened version of the definition of bicycle in statute, rather than referring to the statute.
Right, you'd have to take that out. You'd say for the purpose of this article, the term bicycle has a meaning, or it means the following, and we'd put in our own definition.
Yes.
Mayor, I think we need to bring this back next time. There's a lot of wordsmithing.
April 16th, that quick enough to act, and then we could waive second reading, Member Risser.
We can.
I think that would be wise. And then you can really get your program ready to roll. Okay, sorry, I thought it'd be tonight.
That gives Lawyer Kendall a chance to look at the whole thing and figure out how it should be properly structured. But you get the thoughts.
No, I think we have good guidance now. I can come back with what I think you're looking for.
Okay.
We probably need a motion to table it till the next meeting. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll continue. Is there a motion to continue this discussion on potential adoption of ordinance 2025-04 to the April 16 meeting of the City Council?
So moved.
Second.
A motion second to adopt the motion as stated to postpone this matter to a decision or table it for decision to April 16, 2024 on ordinance 2025-04. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Motion's adopted.
Clarification as to who made the motion and seconded.
I second.
You guys are our best guess.
It was the two of them. I don't know which order.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for that conversation. We've had some good ones here lately. Okay, manager comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a couple. One is that we've mentioned it a couple times tonight, but I just want to affirm that everyone knows our next meeting is Wednesday, April 16th. To comply with our religious holiday observance policy, this meeting was pushed from the Tuesday the 15th to Wednesday the 16th. So all of our public hearings and, pardon?
I just thought that was because of tax day. I didn't really know why it was.
We have a policy that guides us how we position these meetings, and that's how that's happened. Second is if there are members who are interested in attending the League of Minnesota Cities annual conference, we're still in the kind of early bird promotion period where we get a cheaper rate for folks that want to attend. It's June 25th through 27th at the Duluth Deck. Let me know if you want to do that. And finally, we have snow tonight, and we have an all-out snow removal planned, and for later tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. The whole crew will be here to do snow removal. That's all I got. Thank you.
Risser?
I am just so thrilled that the annual International Film Festival is showing films at the Edina Movie Theater. I have bought my tickets for that Ai Weiwei show because I just love him. But it's really nice, especially with the snow, to know that I don't have to go all the way to St. Anthony, Maine. So really thrilled about that. And if you haven't looked at the website, It starts, I believe, tomorrow. So very exciting, although we don't start seeing things here at the Edina Theater until Friday, but that's just around the corner.
Thank you. That's, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, all right, good.
Nothing for
Jackson,
me
okay.
tonight.
Member Pierce?
I had some other remarks I was going to make. I'm going to hold those for the next meeting. I just tonight wanted to just acknowledge the work that we're doing on the budget and thank the staff, Manager Neal, for the work that you guys are leading us through. We are much further ahead than we have been in previous years, and it's tough work to do. And so I want to just say how much I do appreciate the work that you guys are doing. And I know you're getting lots of emails from us. I know I'm sending a ton of them on the topic, and I appreciate the way that you've been engaging.
Thanks for that. Member Agnew?
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that, Member Pierce. I think we have started early, and we had a great all-day session a few weeks ago on a Saturday. Staff understands what we're trying to do, and Manager Neal's doing a great job leading the way. So I concur. I think we all feel that same way. Only one other thing for me, and that was yesterday, and I had to miss it because of an appointment, but Tim Zimmerman, our longtime kind of chief gardener, retired. And I really feel bad that I had to miss that retirement
41
session
years of service.
So I'd like to, if you can find me his contact information, I'd like to buy him lunch or breakfast or something.
Will do.
Tell him how much I appreciated all the work he's done over the years, beautifying Edina and leading all these teams that beautify Edina. So Tim, if by chance happen to tune in, we are so appreciative of all the great work that you did here in Edina over the years. It's pretty remarkable how beautiful you've made our community, and how loyal you've been and diligent you've been on the work that you've done. And so the best to you in retirement. Really pleased for you. Thank you. That's it for me. Anything else from anybody? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, this time Member Agnew seconds. Member Jackson moves. We would adjourn. Member Agnew seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. We stand adjourned.
Thank you for raising that thing on the safety. I didn't see how we could.